Welcome to the Hyperpolyglot Activist, Learn Languages, Make a Difference. My name is Dr. Carlos Yebra Lopez, and today we're going to talk about raciolinguistics. What is raciolinguistics? It is the discipline that studies the intersection between language and race. And there are two sides to this equation. The first side is, given the way you look, your physical appearance, people have expectations and prejudices about the languages you speak and the level of fluency at which you speak these languages. The other side of the equation is, based on the languages you speak, people assume you belong to certain ethnicities. And so to discuss this, we have a very special guest today, Mark, speaking from Manila. Welcome, Mark.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And so, Mark, can you tell us a little bit about your ethnolinguistic background?
Okay, so I belong to the Chinese minority in the Philippines, so we're kind of like roughly 2% of the population, but it's still kind of up for debate because, like, you know, they say that a lot of Filipinos have a little bit of Chinese ancestry, but I grew up speaking 4 languages, although my main languages are English and Tagalog. But I speak Philippine Hokkien as my heritage language. It's the language of my ancestors. And because I studied in a Chinese Filipino school, and Mandarin was a required subject, so I also learned Mandarin. But the two Chinese language are not my first languages. But I definitely do feel at home when I speak to my older family members in Hokkien. But definitely, like, my first language is Tagalog. If you step on my foot, I'm gonna shout something out in Tagalog. So yeah.
Great. All right. So it is my understanding that because of your appearance, people would expect you to speak some Chinese languages, like, for instance, Mandarin, at a very high level of fluency, whereas they wouldn't necessarily expect you to be as fluent in Tagalog. Can you tell us a little about this and whether you can remember any specific examples or difficulties you encountered with this?
Well, my goodness, like, where do I start? I think in the Philippines, because a lot of Filipino, because we're such a really small community, and a lot of people don't really expect us to really speak. You know, there's this kind of like the stereotype that a lot of Chinese Filipinos don't speak the local languages fluently, or at least like they don't speak it as their first language. So whenever I would go to, let's say, to the malls, and I would ask for prices in Tagalog, which is like my first language, a lot of them would, you know, a lot of the salespeople, they would look at me strangely, like, oh my goodness, he knows Tagalog or something. And it's so interesting because recently there has been, well, of course, not right now because of the pandemic, but there has been like an influx of Koreans coming over here and settling here. So, and a lot of them couldn't like differentiate between Chinese and Koreans because we kind of like look similar. So a lot of them would assume that I'm Korean or something. And when I opened my mouth to speak Tagalog natively, they would just, you know, like got really shocked, and they would say something like, "Oh my goodness, how do you know how to speak?" Like, and they would ask me like, "Oh, do you live here?" Or I'm like, "Yeah, I was born and raised here. My parents are born and raised here, and I'm a natural born Filipino." And unfortunately, like, a lot of them still find it really, really hard to believe. But yeah.
Do you feel like sometimes the burden of the proof is on you, that you need to justify why you speak Tagalog so fluently?
Oh, definitely. Because it's my first language, so it's a language that I really identify myself in. I'm a very proud Tagalog speaker, and although it doesn't mean that I'm not proud of my other like 2 Chinese varieties, I'm also proud of them. Although I don't speak them like as fluently as Tagalog, but I feel that speaking Tagalog is kind of like trying to show them that, you know, hey, you know, I'm as Filipino as anyone. Like, but I feel that a lot of these preconceived notions are still kind of like strong in the minds of many people, so they still find it very difficult to believe. Like in my social circle, I don't see any problem with it. Like they really accept us, and we're just pretty cool about it. But outside of my social circle, like there's still a lot of people who still have these preconceived notions about like us Chinese Filipinos or Chinois.
Absolutely. This is still shocking, the extent to which already in the 21st century, people's physical appearance is still equated in people's mind with one's cultural identity, right?
Right.
And